My name is Gabey, and I'm from The Hague, the Netherlands. And today I will talk a bit about my background and my research of the past 2 years, which will also explain how the work derived that you can see on this festival. And yeah, my background, I have both a background in classical music as well as visual arts, and I finished my bachelor's in fine arts. And during my studies in fine arts, my work developed from the two-dimensional surface to more site-specific installations, in which I discovered a fascination for the medium of installation and sound. And what fascinated me so much about these two media was that they completely change our perception of time and space, and my interest for sound brought me actually to the interfaculty art science in The Hague, where I finished my master, and the work that you see here was my graduation project. Okay. The main topic of my research was the installation. Kabakov wrote a book called The Total Installation, and for me this research was actually a redefinition of how I make my installations. And nowadays the installation is a very common media that you see in contemporary art. And according to Kabakov, there are 3 types of installations. You have installations that are a group of objects, like these chairs, and you have installations that could be this wall with the plants, and you have installations that cover the entire space, and that's actually the type of installations that he's talking about, and he calls them a total installation. And it's also the installation that I'm most interested in. And I can give you some examples of what kind of installation I consider as total installations, like Olafur Eliasson, and the kinetic installations of Rebecca Horn, and the light sound installations of Ryoji Ikeda, and the immersive environments of Kurt Henschleder. And what they have all in common is that they use very few elements to transform a space completely, and that's something that I'm really interested in. And in these pieces you are completely reverted to your own self and your own perception, and you only concentrate on what you see and what you hear and where you are. And that's also a very important thing, aspect in my installations. And yeah, usually my installations, they consist of recontextualized elements from the existing world around us, and yeah, they form a work together within a space of architecture. And I can show you what I did before I went to the art science interfaculty. And it's a site-specific installation in a big white room, and it is an implosion that comes through the windows, and you hear continuously the sound of glass falling. And the piece showed actually a fixed moment in time that was repeating itself endlessly. And there was, I spent a grid on the floor from elastics, and it's the same structure as crystal or glass, and you could never walk normally in the space. And I can let you hear some sounds that were playing. Okay, I made this piece in 2010, and the problem I had with this installation, I really like making these installations, these site-specific installations, but what bothered me the most was that I could only make them one time, and I always had a very short time to make the work, and I actually wanted to make an installation that that didn't need a space, or that could create a space on its own. And at the art science interfaculty, I approached my research more. I based it more on the medium of sound, and I wanted to see how sound would change my visual language, and I ended up with this is actually an early version of the installation that you see here, and I composed 5 short pieces for these 3 instruments, I call them, in which I explore various relationships between the sound, the light, and the movement, and therefore also associations. And in this way they also reconstructed the architecture in a different way, and this time the installation doesn't consist of objects and an existing space, but space is here defined only by light, sound and space. So the elements became very immaterial, and they only could, they gained their meaning through time. And and also in these pieces I explored various relationships between these objects as individuals and between each other, and also how they behave as a whole. And I actually created this because I I wanted to make a forest of all these wires where you could walk in and where all these wires were moving. That was the second version, but I realized that it wasn't really a good idea to let the people walk through, because then they lost their focus on what they should see. And in this setup, it was also not clear for me if I wanted to have a grid setup or something random, because I both wanted to have the ability that you see a grid as well as that it doesn't look like a grid. And then I realized that that the installation can never be a perfect grid, because the wires are always in a different shape, and therefore I chose to have this setup in the final, in the end, and it's also the version that you see in this festival. And in this way, they also, all these wires, they formed an entity, and in the previous version, I didn't see them as a field or a group, and in this way, I could see them more together. And I think that's it.